Good evening and welcome to the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. I will be your host today, D. Griffin Jones. Joining me today, some say he's adopted the Beatles' diet of coffee, toast, and cigarettes. Others say he powers his house entirely from the solar flare reflected off his shiny, gleaming head. All we know is he's Cult of Mac's managing editor, Lewis Wallace.
Yeah, I like toasted cigarettes, actually. That's the best.
Apparently this is the month where all three of us have taken a week off, 3 weeks in a row. We literally didn't plan this. It just happened to work this way. Lewis got back as soon as I left for my vacation a day later, and when I get back, Irfan says he'll be out. Weird how that works.
It's almost European, the lack of work that's getting done.
One more point of order before we begin on another sad note. My Cult of Mac Apple financial earnings call live streamathon was sadly canceled. I know I scheduled my vacation to get back right in time for it, but the axe throwing act that I hired came down with rickets, and it just isn't a Cult of Mac Apple financial earnings call live streamathon without live axe throwing. So I don't know. Go to sixcolors.com. I think they have one without axe throwing. We're just here to cover the news.
The earnings call. Nothing will keep you awake in an earnings call like an axe throwing.
You know, that's my Apple tech journalist. Never have I ever. I actually never listened to an earnings call.
Consider yourself lucky. You know what's going to happen? Tim Cook's going to get on there. He's going to repeat all the things that they've said at every keynote or everything this year. He's going to talk about how fantastic everything is and how much people love all of the Apple devices. You won't believe how great the customer satisfaction numbers are. There'll be some percentages. There'll be a lot of numbers. Then Luca Maestri will come on, and he'll talk about things that you don't understand, headwinds, and until you start tossing out acronyms and stuff, financial
and
lingo.
Tough compares.
There'll be a lot of tough compares. And, Then they get the calls or the questions, which that part can actually be interesting. But the other part is literally just, it's just a rehash of all the stuff they've released in the past 3 months, 6 months, whatever. It's kind of a boilerplate.
Sounds like I'm really there. What a hair-raising thrill that was.
They archive them, right? So you can go and listen to one. Like, for instance, tonight, if you're really sleepy or not sleepy and you need to get some sleep, go ahead and listen to the earnings call. It's perfect. It's better than one of those white noise generators.
That's a good app idea. Instead of one of those go to sleep apps that just reads off various public earnings calls.
Yeah, they don't tend to be too spicy. Tim's pretty level headed, and
speaking of spicy, we have quite a show for you all this week. You can get Apple Intelligence features right now with the latest iOS 18.1 beta. We have the colors of the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro. We have the next era of Apple Silicon as Apple's making their own 5G modems. Vision Pro that you can control with your thoughts rather than your eyes and fingers. And we have a new podcast that I think listeners of our show will really enjoy. But before we dive in, we want to thank our sponsors to this show. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Irfan is, as you've all heard, a very happy Squarespace customer. He's been using it for years to run his CultCloth, cleaning cloth related empire. I'm coming from the other perspective in that I run a website that isn't hosted by Squarespace. I had to do it all myself, and you know what? It was a lot of work to get a website that is arguably uglier and does less. You go to Squarespace, you can start a completely personalized website with their new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally curated layout and styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand and business and optimized for every device. Easily launch your website and get discovered with integrated optimized SEO tools. SEO tools are also a piece of work if you don't know what you're getting into.
Oh boy.
I feel like you could fill like a 4-year college degree with trying to understand SEO. Squarespace does it all for you. So you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. You know, they handle all of the website maintenance. Like that's something I have to do myself. It's like, recurring hours of work that I have to put in. Squarespace also handles flexible payments. If you want to sell a product, you can make checkout seamless for your customers with simple but powerful payment tools. Accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. That's rolling my own payment system is something I wouldn't touch with a 50-foot pole. I'll tell you that much. They do all the hard work for you so you can handle the parts that matter to you, like making content and making money. Sell exclusive content on your site by adding a paywall to sell memberships or courses, or sell files your customers can download like PDFs, music, or ebooks. Go to squarespace.com/cultcast for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain with code CultCast at checkout. That is squarespace.com/cultcast. For 10% off, use code CultCast. Thank you to Squarespace for their support of this show. Let's jump right into it. How to get Apple Intelligence features early. Apple did something kind of unprecedented this week. Like, as you know, the current version is iOS 17. There's a developer and public beta for iOS 18.0, but Apple has simultaneously released a beta for 18.1 before 18 has even launched. I think this is the first time they've ever done that. Also, interestingly, 18.1 is only available if you have an iPhone 15 Pro, and that's because this is a special beta that enables Apple Intelligence. Not all the features are available yet, but you can try out select parts of the new Siri, all their writing tools, their mail features, and more if you request early access. If you don't have an iPhone 15 Pro, you can try it out on an iPad or a Mac with an M-series chip as well. Lewis, I think you were saying that you're too afraid to put it on your main phone.
Yeah. Although, we were discussing before the show, right? Precious few of us have actual devices that we can, A, run this stuff on, and B, sacrifice, take a chance with, right? I always say this with the phone. I love to run the beta on an iPad because I barely use the iPad, but now my iPad's too old. So, yeah, it's weird, man. I might have to take a bullet for the team because you don't dare put it on your Mac. You got to use your Mac every day for everything, video and producing podcasts and everything. So, it's rough. And your iPhone isn't up to snuff. Ed's iPhone isn't up to snuff. Yeah, it's weird. That's one of the weirdest things about this is the fact that it doesn't work with a standard iPhone 15. That to me is just kind of mind blowing, and it's jammed us up, right? I mean, that's what Ed has. Is 15.
It's been a long time since they've come out with a feature like this. I think the last example I can think of is the original Siri, which required an iPhone 4S and not the iPhone 4 the year before. And like I jailbroke my phone and so that I could get Siri just for it. And you know what? It ran really slow and not very well. I think this is just another one of those like hard cutoffs. Mm-hmm. I guess another cutoff, like when they switched to 64-bit and suddenly the iPhones got like an order of magnitude faster and lasted much longer. And like, well, sorry if you bought an iPhone 5, but the iPhone 5S is just way better.
Yeah.
I actually should put out a PSA. If you plan on upgrading to an iPhone 16 this fall, you may have a hard time transferring data to your new device. That's because you can't do a direct device-to-device transfer of data when your old phone is on a newer OS than the new phone. So if you install the iOS 18.1 beta, well, the new iPhone 16 is going to ship with 18.0 out of the box, which means that you'll probably have to like set up your new phone from scratch and then transfer your data afterwards. If you want to avoid that mess, maybe don't. Just wait a few more months.
What if they'll do that? What if they release 18.0 and 18.1 at the same time? When the new phone arrives, it's already got it.
It's possible. That'd be pretty neat. But this has never happened before, so you can't really count on that.
Kind of nutty.
Yeah. So to get the beta, you can just go to Settings, General Software Update, and you can tap the Beta Updates tab, and you'll see a new option separate from iOS 18 beta, iOS 18.1 Developer Beta. And you can reboot into that after you install it. Then you'll go to Settings, Apple Intelligence, and Siri. And then there'll be an option where you can join the Apple Intelligence waitlist. I guess they have a mechanism for that if they want to like stagger how many people are getting onto this thing. Apparently, it's still only like a few minutes wait if you want to join in, but they're
it's an exclusive club, but not that exclusive.
Yeah, it's like a bar in Athens in like June. You know,
They
empty.
got the
That's
velvet rope, but yeah, that's just for show.
yeah, yeah. So, what features are available? They have a modestly improved Siri that can better understand natural language if you stumble over your words, and stay aware of the context if you ask multiple questions. But you know, this isn't the advanced Siri that plugs into your personal context or anything yet. That's still to come. In a moment that I have finally been Sherlocked, Siri can now answer Apple product knowledge questions and software features. So, but you know, I still encourage our listeners to read my how-to articles on cultofmac.com, please. You can now text to Siri by double tapping the home bar at the bottom of the screen. You know, if you don't want to talk out loud to your iPhone. Writing tools will rewrite text to match a particular style and proofread your work for clarity. It appears basically it appears anywhere you can enter text, like Mail, Messages, Safari, third-party apps, Notes. The Mail app has a few new features where it'll put important messages on the top of your inbox. And what I think is really cool is that instead of showing in the inbox like the first 2 lines of an email, which are kind of useless, it has an AI-generated summary of it. So you can actually, you know, see what the contents of an email are before you open it in a useful way, instead of, "Hi, Griffin, we are writing here to tell you that."
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if this is going to work. I get a little. I guess I'm leery of Siri deciding which email is important.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
God, I
like,
said it out loud, and it's... God, when will I learn? Never.
Did it start playing music?
Well, I had the temerity to touch it.
Oh. Like, I think most, you know, I can't imagine myself using a lot of summary features. Like, you know, if I open an article on Safari, it's because I want to read it. Or if I open an email, I'm just going to scroll down and see what it's about. But like having that in the preview window and like the list of your inbox, I think is really clever. You can now turn on the reduce interruptions focus mode that intelligently chooses which notifications to let through. Again, I'm not sure if that's something I trust. Like I can, you know, admittedly setting up a custom focus mode is kind of a pain in the ass, but I don't know if I'd trust my phone to let me know which things to let through. You can search for photos and videos and create memory movies in the Photos app using natural language prompts. You can transcribe audio recordings and phone calls.
That could be awesome.
Yada, yada, yada. Oh, yeah.
If that actually works, if that works as well as Otter, it's going to be a giant, giant thing.
Mm-hmm. And now there are a few features missing that are yet to come that'll probably roll out in iOS 18.2, 18.3, and so on. Like the Siri personal context for answering questions relevant to you and your life. That'll draw from information on screen and stored inside apps. Siri app integration for taking action inside third-party apps, and like, you know, doing things as just by asking. The image playground isn't there, nor is removing objects from photos, or the integration with ChatGPT.
No
so that is still yet to come.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I think you set off one of my.
What?
Maybe I set off my phone there too.
Did you even say it?
I don't know.
You know, you said Siri app integration.
Mm-hmm.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone.
Wow. I could even hear myself say that.
Which app do you want to open?
Oh, God.
You know, I'm going to put an article in the show notes: how to get Siri to stop talking to you all the damn time. where you can turn off the activation word to "Hey, computer," or just nothing at all. I don't know. Are you excited to try out any of these other features?
You know, I mean, the writing stuff, I mean, maybe that'll be useful. I mean, I was, you know, I edit almost everything in WordPress in a browser, right? So, and I use Grammarly to just, you know, it's like a backup copy editor, you know, like, hey, you know, you've got two words in a row, the same word twice in a row, whatever. I find that to be super helpful, especially since, you know, we're lean and mean over here at Cult of Mac. We don't have a copy desk. We don't have anybody reading stuff a lot of times in the back end of stuff. So it's that kind of stuff is super cool to have. And if I mean, it's not that different from what you already have in, Microsoft Word or whatever. But if I can get rid of Grammarly out of my browser, that would be awesome, because I don't particularly love the way it works either. It keeps trying to sell me a premium version. I'm so tired of things trying to sell me a premium version and popping things up and making it hard to do my job. I don't know. Email replies could be handy, I suppose, although I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a difficult time replying to emails. Typically, I don't reply to them, so mostly because I don't want to hear back from people. So I don't know.
You've already got an automated system.
Yeah, right. It's pretty foolproof. Just don't read it, delete it. Or, well, actually, I never delete anything because I'm a hoarder, digital hoarder. Mm-hmm. I got to say, I'm interested when they come up with the Genmoji stuff. And I think that'll be probably one of the most popular applications of this, goofy as it is and pointless as it is. I think people have fun with it. I would love it if it could have a sort of method of reducing interruptions, like that, reduced interruptions focus. I've thought about, I mean, sometimes I turn on a focus mode, but then it's like, oh, yeah, you missed stuff you need to know. But, I mean, I don't know about you, and maybe I just need a vacation, but it seems to me like in the past, let's say 3 months to 6 months, it seems like the interruptions are never ending. Like something broke during COVID that hasn't been fixed. People just assume that you can reply to any message at any time, day or night. And it's, I don't know, man. I start to feel like completely frazzled by it. So if this could actually help that in a meaningful way, that would be awesome.
I mean, I very aggressively, anytime I install an app or sign up for a service, I immediately unsubscribe from all the emails, turn off all the notifications from the app. Like I do that like clockwork as soon as I join a service. But I know that a lot of people, don't care or don't have the foresight to do that or don't have the willpower because, again, it takes a lot of work manually culling these things as they come in. But, and that's how people end up with 10,000 email inboxes and stuff like that. And then email is basically useless because it's just a fire hose of nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, that's pretty interesting subject. Maybe you should write a post about that. I mean, like, take charge of stuff now, stop it before it takes hold. Because what you just described, I mean, if I look at, I use Gmail, right? So there's the 3 columns or 5 columns, excuse me. Some of those, there are just hundreds of emails that I never see. I don't bother to look at it unless Gmail says, hey, this looks like an interesting message. I mean, it flags a couple that it thinks are interesting, right? So it's doing some of these same kind of things that Apple's talking about doing already. I mean, I've never exclusively used Apple's Mail app, and I wish that it could get on par with Gmail so that I could quit using Gmail. Although, and I've used my Gmail address for ages. So I don't know, man. Like, you start down the road, 10 years later, you're way down the road. What are you going to do? Turn around? You can't get a jetpack out in the middle of the wilderness to hop to a different road. I don't know what to do. But so you just automatically just unsubscribe from everything.
Unsubscribe from everything as soon as I get it. Like, I don't know if everybody knows this, but like every mass email that's on an email list is required to put an unsubscribe link at the bottom of the email. Sometimes you have to hunt for it. And sometimes Apple automatically detects it and, has that suggestion bar with like the one tap unsubscribe button at the top. But yeah, you can always find those at the bottom. And sometimes you go to the website and they have to trick you. But like, there is always an unsubscribe from all emails on the Safari link that you can tap through.
Right.
I'm most excited, I think, out of all of these for the, this is dependent on third-party developer support, but I'm really excited for Siri being able to do things inside apps for you. Now, it will take a lot of developer work, and so how useful it will be is kind of a roll of the dice. But like Apple has said that, right now, third-party apps that adopt Siri intents might have like 3 or 4 different features exposed to the system, that people might use for creating shortcuts. And Apple has said, no, with iOS 18, you need to create an intent exposed to the system for basically everything your app can do. And, the theory there is that, so that you can ask Siri like a complex task, like, take all of these links in this document and open them in Safari windows and send them all by Slack to this person. A chain of commands like that. could be incredibly helpful for all the people who don't bother to set up Siri shortcuts for the tasks that they do in their daily life, or for the things that, are complex tasks you want to do, but you only have to do once. So it's not really worth making a shortcut out of it.
So
like that.
you said developers are going to be required to do that? Or is it just like they'll be required to do that if they want to want Siri to work within there? We're going to keep saying that, aren't we? And we're going to keep triggering.
I don't think Apple is making them do that, but for Siri to, for our favorite voice assistant to work well, that's what they'll have to do. And I haven't seen luckily there's not a lot else for developers to be doing this year. Like there's the new Intense system and there's the dark mode app icons. And those are pretty much the only items on the developer to-do list this summer.
You'd think that, unless there's maybe there's some kind of way to automate that. Is that possible? On the back end, what they already have, they just have to say, oh, here's all the things the app can do. And
no, and I really should, investigate how much work it is myself, but I don't think it's a lot of work. But I also don't know that because I'm not a very good app developer. Let's move along and talk about the iPhone 16.
Finally, some razzle-dazzle. Yeah, so iPhone 16 could come in these 5 colors. That's a headline on Cult of Mac. Alleged iPhone 16 dummy units showing off the rear panel's design and color options leaked in all their glory. That was earlier this week. Picture suggests Apple will return to an iPhone 12-like vertical camera setup on its upcoming non-Pro phones. This is a rumor we've heard before. This photo comes from Sonny Dixon, an Apple leaker with a reliable track record. Based on the image that he posted on X, Apple might launch the iPhone 16 in white, black, blue, green, and pink colors. As our story says, the blue, green, and pink shades of the photo are deeper and richer in color than those of the iPhone 15 for a more striking look. With the caveat that the final colors could look a bit different, and boy, do I hope so. Since we are looking at iPhone 16 dummy units, still give you a good idea of what the iPhone 16 should look like. Did you check these things out, Griffin?
I did, yeah. I think it's important to note that I think they look weird because I don't think these dummy units are made out of glass, and certainly not the stainless steel or titanium that they may be made out of. They look like they're just plastic to me. So I think the light reflections or stuff like that might change. And of course, Apple's promotional images are going to be professionally shot, and this is probably just this is probably just taken with somebody's Android phone on the
in some
fluorescent
kind of
lighting
warehouse
factory
in
of some
China.
kind.
Yeah, yeah. I got to say, I look at them and it's I don't know. The white and the black, predictable. Okay, looks fine. Although I got to say, looking at that flash there underneath it, it almost looks like a mouth underneath two minion eyes or something. If you look at the thing sideways, but the blue, how would you describe that blue? It's
the blue is, I would say, very blue.
Well, it's much more blue than Apple's traditional so white it's not blue. But it's also kind of just, I don't know, it looks like putty or something. It's a weird kind of sky blue. The green's even worse. Because I would almost call that teal.
I would call it Windows 95 teal.
Ooh, even worse. What a damning description.
And the pink is a little more pink than the current pink, but it's still not like Barbie pink.
No, what is wrong with Apple? That's exactly right. Why is it not a hot pink? It's like the hottest color. Maybe that's 2 last year for Apple, but what did they have last year? 4 shades of gray. It's I don't understand it. Well, we've harped on and on about this in the past. Why can't they give us some bold colored iPhones? About the only thing we've ever got is the red ones. Which. They're fine, but
you know what their current colors are like? It's like when you go to a restaurant and you get a slice of lemon in your water, and you squeeze the lemon into the water, and that's how much color they get.
Right? It's like does it cost extra to have color in the phone? I don't understand it. I guess they think they're being classy. I guess they think they're being high end, premium, whatever. I increasingly just so what? They just look dull. These colors.
But this green and blue, I'm excited to see how they'll look in glass and metal.
Yeah, but that blue, that looks suspiciously like, what was it, the iPhone 6E, or I can't remember what it was called.
5C.
5C. The 5C blue, right? Am I right about that color?
Yeah, I remember that. A lot of people rag on the iPhone 5C, but I knew a lot of people who had the iPhone 5C as their very first iPhone.
Yeah. I remember talking somebody into returning one. He bought it. I think he bought it for his mom. And I said, you're saving a couple dollars, but you're missing out on all these things. Just return it and get the other one. And he did. And I'm pretty sure he's happy.
Wise call. I mean, the iPhone 5S, that's like an all-time great iPhone. Like it ran up to like iOS 9, I think, or maybe 12. I don't know. It got years of support.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you say, these are just dummy units. Who knows? And I mean, they are. Who knows? It's impossible to know how close it'll actually look to that. But man, if it's just that same array of sort of ho hum colors, I mean, granted, they make the iPhone 15 Pro colors look they're more exciting than those, but not by much.
Well, speaking of which, iPhone 16 Pro Max looks stealthy in leaked black titanium shade. Yeah, the most exciting part of this lineup is that the black is more black than before. Apple will apparently offer its upcoming Pro iPhones in at least 3 shades: white, black, and titanium. Unlike in the past, it appears the company will finally adopt a deep black shade for the iPhone 16 Pro Max, giving it a stealthy look. This is from the same leaker, Sonny Dixon, who posted another photo on X showing the iPhone 16 Pro Max dummy units in 3 colors. So far, Apple has used kind of like a middling, like dark gray for its Pro phones, but they still call them black. But I think for the first time since the iPhone 7, Apple appears to have finally used a truly black shade of black. Now, the interesting thing is that Apple usually offers its Pro phones in 4 shades. If the dummy units are anything to go by, Apple won't make any significant design changes to the iPhone 16 Pro lineup this year. It will seemingly stick to the same triple camera layout as before. And while it's not shown here, both the displays are rumored to be 0.2 inches larger with ultra slim bezels. I think I remember reading on, must have been like Mac Rumors or something, that the rumored 4th color for the Pro phones is going to be bronze.
Right, the Irfan special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the color that was with that post was like yellowish.
Mm-hmm.
Yellowed, actually, more than yellow.
Yeah, like 2 old 1980s yellowed plastic is what I would describe their concept was. But yeah, bronze would be a neat color. Based on these images here, what do you think you would go with?
Of those 3, I'd probably go with the black one, just because, I've already got the titanium one this time around. It's okay. I kind of like it. I like it all right, but there's just none of them that are super, I don't know. It's hard to tell, actually, because I almost bought a white one last year. I don't think I've ever even owned one single white iPhone. And there's something kind of crisp and clean about the white ones. The black, I mean, it just depends on the black, right? If that black, like you were saying before, like this is probably a piece of plastic, right? If that black has like cool, sparkly speckles in it, and it actually, I mean, that could actually be cool. It's the thing I think you rightly point out with all these things that we're missing is that like the depth. And yeah, it's overplayed in Apple's press images, but when you get them out in the sunlight, those colors do kind of come to life. That's the one thing I will say that Apple does right about their colors, is they look better in the sunlight. But the problem is, like, who spends that much time staring at their phone outside? I mean, I guess a lot of people do, but
who lives in a place that's that sunny? I live in Ohio.
Yeah, they are. Well, they're designing California.
Yeah. If the bronze rumor ends up turning true, and it's like actually like a proper like brownish bronze, I might be tempted to go with that one. But otherwise, I actually have been thinking about doing a secret crazy plan. Well, what I don't like about the black is that the aluminum frame around, or I guess titanium frame around the outside is also black. And I think that like black glass with like, silver metal is a better look. So I was thinking maybe I'll actually order a white iPhone so that it has like the lighter, titanium ring around the outside. And then I'll use Apple's self-service repair program to buy a black piece of glass on the back, and then I'll just like replace it myself.
Oh my God. You know, it
Now,
might be
if-
easier to just order the black one and then sandblast the edges.
That's also a good idea. I mean, that's what's slowly happening to my cup here.
Oh
It's
my
black,
God.
And it's just slowly turning silver.
Yeah.
But I'll say this though: if any of our CultCast listeners would like to do the opposite of what I'm doing, buy a black phone and then put a white backplate on the back, send me an email,
Do a swap?
feedback@dgriffinjones.com. We'll do a swap. We'll swap our backplates.
That could be a funny trend. I mean, anything to just make these things look a little more just exciting. And you know, the thing is, like, Apple keeps getting kicked for, their iPhone's the same. And it's true. Like, it's basically same design as for, 4 years running now? Or is it even 5? I can't keep track. It's been so long. And that's, you know, they don't have a folding phone. They don't have a this. They don't have a that. You know, it's the same old thing, right? Well, what could they do that would be simple, that would make it, like, seem really different? How about a crazy orange color? How about, you know, maybe the bronze? It's like, I always use the description of like a bronze, like a carnival ride bronze, right? Like that crazy sparkly gold speckle. That, you know, yeah, that could be cool. They could do something that looks interesting. I mean, although, you know, I think they just rely on the hype. But, you know, if you drive through San Francisco, you always see the billboard with the Apple iPhone, you know, the latest iPhone, and yeah, you know what? They look better on those billboards than they do in your hand. That's the problem.
From what I've seen, like of the few TV ads that I've seen, they're pretty much just marketing this as the iPhone 15 Pro with titanium. Like titanium is like practically part of the name of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't tell you what's better about the titanium or like anything that they talk about in the keynote. They just say that this one's made of titanium.
Yeah, yeah. The Apple Store, like the big sign on the wall is titanium. Like anybody, you know. I mean, it is lighter, slightly lighter, which is awesome. But yeah, it's weird. And like if you look at all those colors, they're like black titanium, blue titanium. Okay, well, fair enough.
Why don't we move right along and tell us about the Apple 5G modem?
All right. Apple's in-house 5G modem could finally debut on next year's iPhones. That's the Cult of Mac headline. Reports indicate Apple has spent billions of dollars developing its in-house 5G modem, but has little to show for it. This is kind of a sad story. In 2019, the company acquired Intel's 5G modem business for $1 billion to get a head start on its development efforts. But that move reportedly backfired, with Apple engineers facing issues with Intel's code. Trying to fix the problems is seemingly causing other features to break. That's great. This is like the longest story in the world. In June 2022, our favorite analyst, Ming-Chi Kuo, claimed that Apple's efforts to develop the 5G modem had bombed. Since then, though, the rumor mill has indicated Apple's in-house chip could debut on its devices in 2025. And then in a post on X published, I guess this late last week, the analyst, same guy, Ming-Chi Kuo, claims that Apple will debut its 5G chip on 2 iPhone models in 2025. Chip will launch with the iPhone SE4 in the spring of 2025, followed by the iPhone 17 Slim later in the year. That's an odd detail to like the SE4 and the iPhone 17 Slim. Well, what about the other iPhones? Maybe that's why it's going to be so much more expensive, despite having fewer features.
I bet they're probably just like dipping their toes into it, you know, on the less important iPhones to their bottom line. You know, if something goes wrong with the iPhone SE4, it's like, well, no major loss there. You know, that's a phone that they sell over a period of like 5 years.
Why did you buy the cheap phone? You should have bought a good one. And if you complain about the expensive one, then what? Well, we can give you an iPhone 17 Pro Max instead. Let's see. So currently, Apple sources its 5G chips from Qualcomm, and you know what a difference the 5G makes, right, in your everyday life. It's just at least as fast as 4G, usually.
Yeah, that's why my hair is blown back, because when I got my iPhone 12, I was so just blown away by the power of 5G that my life was forever changed.
Yeah, that was that year's titanium. It was just such a marketing point and such a nothing when it actually arrived in your hands. Let's see.
In all actuality, I don't even think my phone plan supports 5G. I think I'm still on a 4G plan.
I mean, a couple of times I've seen better than average speeds. A couple, and I've had these things for years now. Let's see. Mostly what I do is it hops between bands, and I don't get any. That's what I love. Like, it'd be so great if it was 5G, but it just like, eventually fails over to 4G, and it's like, no, that's great. Let's see. Anyway, earlier this year, Apple extended its modem licensing deal with Qualcomm until March 2027. Do we want to hear the rest of this? Given the turbulent development journey of Apple's 5G modem, it's entirely possible that the company will hit a last-minute roadblock again, forcing it to fall back on Qualcomm's modem again next year. Even if it debuts, chip performance might not be as good as that from Qualcomm. I don't know where that comes from. I think that's pure speculation on our part. I would hope that if Apple switches to its own modem, that it's actually better and offers some kind of advantage. I mean, surely it would. And like you're saying, this is the next Apple silicon thing, right? Well, so I haven't actually heard much about how a 5G modem would be better or worse. I mean, maybe less of that switching, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read, they are just intensely complicated pieces of silicon to develop. But if a better one would be more battery efficient, like currently a big problem with 5G modems is that they are incredibly battery inefficient, and they're a big power drain. Like Apple has a setting if you go into settings where it can you can choose it to forcibly stick with 5G if a 5G connection is available, but it warns you this is going to have worse battery life.
Huh. Yeah, well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's a great point. Maybe it'll be like, and that makes sense with the slim iPhone, right? Like, because it has less battery, but we paired it with this super efficient Apple 5G modem. Now it lasts at least as long as the one with the battery that's a third bigger. Mm-hmm. It's all these kinds these rumors are kind of dovetailing.
I mean, I will say about the iPhone Slim, because I heard you and Irfan talking about this last week. I think maybe like the one part that we don't know about the iPhone Slim yet is what it looks like. And, sure, it might not have the best camera. It might not have the best display. It might use the regular chip instead of the Pro chip. But you know what? Maybe it just looks really damn cool, and we don't know yet.
It'll be bronze.
Yeah.
A color that's an actual color.
Yeah, and that's the only feature.
Definitely worth hundreds of dollars more. Yeah, I don't know. Irfan and I were scratching our heads over this one last week. It's really odd, They say that it's going to have all these, not substandard, but, not best-in-class features, all these things that aren't going to be quite as good as the iPhone Pro Max or whatever, and yet it's going to cost more. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Do you remember from like 13 years ago, the rumors of the iPhone 5... before the actual like design leaked or whatever, that there were rumors that it was going to be like this weird like teardrop shape, and it was going to be like incredibly skinny and stuff like that. Do you remember those at all?
No,
I think there was like there was like a leaked image that was probably just like somebody's ridiculous concept art that they passed as being a leak, but it was going to be like incredibly thin. Like it would kind of have like that iPad 2 shape to it, where it was like pointy on the edges, and it like tiered off to a very like skinny edge to it. Maybe that leak was actually true, and it was just 13 years ahead of its time, and they've been trying to make that phone all along.
We'll see.
Anyways, let's move right along. This episode is brought to you by you, our listeners, our generous listeners who have joined the Cult Club. The podcast ad market isn't doing great right now, or really the ad market on the internet as a whole. And, I don't want to paint too dire of a picture, but I will say that our listeners are increasingly becoming the lifeblood of this podcast. We've been teasing you all with this stretch goal of ours for the Cult Club, and that is that Irfan and I want to take Lewis to Disneyland. We want to meet up with our listeners in California, make an over-the-top travel vlog for you all to watch. But most of all, we want to force Lewis into riding It's a Small World and Space Mountain. And, because joining the Cult Club is a monthly subscription, odds are that we will be able to make our trip eventually. But, with more listener support, we could make that trip in 2025 instead of, 2036. And in Lewis's advanced age, that's kind of a race against the clock. Yeah. So I implore you all, if you haven't yet gone to cultof9to5macrumors.com, you can give just $5 a month. Or if you're able and willing, you can give 10, 15, or even more. Your support means a lot to us, and it will help genuinely keep this podcast afloat.
I wish I had like a little, like the little cup with the coins in it that I could shake, but I don't have
Please,
one.
sir, may I have your support?
Yeah, well, I got to say, the idea of going to Disneyland or Disney World is very exciting, if not life-threatening. I don't know. It seems like an odd way to spend our money, but...
Well, here's another ridiculous way to spend your money. On a Vision Pro.
What a segue.
This is a story that we just broke earlier this week. A brain implant lets ALS patients control Vision Pro via thoughts. And a groundbreaking development, a brain-computer interface, or BCI company. Not sure how popular an acronym that is. I've never heard that anywhere else.
Oh, yeah. That's what Neuralink is. BCI.
This company called Synchron successfully demonstrated the first ever use of Apple's Vision Pro controlled directly by thought. Innovations like thought control of the Vision Pro could lead to big things for both hands-free and voice-free use of devices. The demonstration involved Mark, a 64-year-old man living with ALS, that has taken away his use of his arms and hands. He could control the Vision Pro's cursor using his thoughts, thanks to Synchron's tiny implanted BCI, which doesn't require open brain surgery. That allowed Mark to play solitaire, watch Apple TV, and send text messages without the need for hand gestures, which, along with eye movement, are typically required to operate the device. The BCI is inserted in the blood vessel on the surface of the motor cortex of the brain via the jugular vein through what they say is a minimally invasive endovascular procedure. I don't know. That sounds a little invasive. I'm not a doctor. Maybe that's really easy to do. Who knows?
Well,
it communicates with a small device affixed to the patient's chest. Then it detects and wirelessly transmits motor intent out of the brain to enable severely paralyzed people to control personal devices with hands-free point and click.
Yeah. So the first thing that I thought when I read this was, do you really, do you have to use your hands to use the Vision Pro?
Yeah, I think you do. There might be an
Absolutely
accessibility feature around it, but if there is, it's probably kind of annoying to use.
So, because of the pinching. You can't do that by blinking twice really fast or something.
I haven't dug a lot into the accessibility features. I know that they're rolling out a eye control for the iPhone that would supposedly let you look around on your phone screen and just stare at something for a few seconds to activate it. So if David can't afford a Vision Pro, certainly not after paying for his healthcare in this country, maybe he could get an iPhone and use dwell control on that. But yeah, there are a lot of accessibility features on the Vision Pro. One of them turns on a beam that comes out of your eyes. It's like your eyes are shooting a laser beam, and that way you can. And that
turns on a beam that shoots out of your eye. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
It adds that to the display, so that you can see where the Vision Pro thinks you're looking.
Oh, I see. So what you see looks like your Cyclops from the X-Men.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a number of nifty accessibility features. I don't know if you can, but I don't know if there is a way to control it without actually tapping your fingers.
That was the first thing that I when I read this headline, we were talking about this story, I was like, well, using only as I think the original said, using thoughts alone. I'm like, surely it must not. It's got. Can the guy use his eyes? How you wouldn't wear a headset if you couldn't use your eyes? But yeah, I don't know. It's not having used the Vision Pro extensively. It's weird to me. How much would you really need it? The hand gestures and stuff. But I guess you're saying, at least in the regular mode, you do. It's this stuff with the brain implants, man. It's it's kind of wild. The way that they can jack into your brain and know what you're thinking and know what you're trying to do and replicate it. That's truly astonishing. So
yeah, and one part of the Vision Pro that I think is one of the easiest signs where it could get better is that eye tracking stuff. It's pretty accurate, but with my Vision Pro, I think it's no matter how many times I calibrate it, it always thinks I'm looking like 1 degree higher than I actually, or like lower than I actually am. Like it's kind of like offset by the same amount of distance as just like my thumb from a little far away. And so I've just sort of trained myself to look slightly above where I actually want to look before I tap on something. If I'm like trying to pick something from like a vertical list where like, the vertical precision matters, maybe I just need to go through the calibration again and like try and intentionally offset my eyes a little bit as I'm doing like the little dot pattern setup thing. But pretty much until they get to until Apple can like do a first party like neural control or something like that, if it's even on their roadmap, that would be the next big step beyond eye tracking and hand tracking in that way.
I don't want to be too personal, but is how bad is your glasses prescription?
My glasses are admittedly pretty bad. I think my right eye is -5.25 and my left eye is -4.75. Not blind as a bat like you are, but
yeah.
Usually amongst a group of friends, I'm the one with the worst glasses.
I just wonder how much that has to do with its vision tracking, right? Because you're wearing this thing, and you got the prescription lenses, I'm sure, right, in there. So you would think that they would have figured it out, but I just wonder if like the way that it interprets what you're looking at varies depending on how bad your eyes are, and I really wonder, like, since my eyes are radically different. I mean, I think -9.5 and -5 or something. So like one is bad and the other one is like almost useless. So I'm really curious if I could ever get one of these things. If they ever deign to let me try one with my amazing what do they call it, a prism. I have to have a prism in my prescription. I'm just curious if that affects the eye tracking. I
wonder if the next time you go to your doctor, if you can just ask, hey, is it possible to have a glasses prescription without prism, because I want to use a headset?
I did ask this last time I went. I said, hey, and she goes, oh, you don't really need the prism. It's just there for I can't remember what she said. It's there for, like, I don't know, keep your eyes from getting tired or something like that, So so I could take that prescription and say, hey, no prism, but I don't know if they'd bounce it. And I guess I've lost interest in the Vision Pro like everyone else, having never tried it, which is really kind of an admission of laziness, and I don't know. I can't believe it's been this long. I was so excited to try it, and then when I got rejected because of the prism in the prescription, I just lost all hope.
Killed all the momentum.
Yeah, I lost all hope. And then, I've had other things going on, and it's like, oh, God, anyway.
Yep, we're coming up to a busy month, so. Oh, do you want to move on to the next story?
Why not? Let's go. So yeah, I'm actually excited to hear this. I have not heard it yet, but there's a new Apple podcast. It's about Apple history, and it's hosted by 2 Cult of Mac alumni, which we heard word of this this month. It comes out this month. We got a Slack message from Graham Bauer. He's the guy who's written so many fantastic Apple Watch how-tos and stuff for us. And so Graham started this podcast with Charlie Sorrell, who used to do our how-tos. And this new podcast is called Apple Core. They host
Great
it,
name.
and they in this podcast they explore a history of each episode explores the history of a different Apple product, focusing on what we can learn from Apple's past and what this tells us about the company's future plans. Let's see. Supposedly they're going to have Leander on there, and maybe even you, right? Let's see. First 3 episodes are already out now. They released them all at once. I guess maybe is that a podcast strategy that people do? Like, oh, we got to have 3 at once. We've got to come out the gate early.
I was surprised that they did, but they've got like a whole several hours worth of content to listen to right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's like the Apple TV Plus strategy, right? Release 3 the first week and then 1 a week for, I don't know, ever for them in their case. Let's see. First 3 episodes are out. The first one, they cover the history of Airport, the first consumer Wi-Fi technology. And then they cover Mac OS 8. And finally, you're going to love this, the Nike Plus iPod Sport Kit. Company's first foray into health and fitness, designed to work with an iPod Nano. And I admit, as excited I am to hear this exists, I have not yet subscribed and started listening to it. But you did, right? So you checked out at least 1 episode.
Oh yeah, I was. I didn't know that if Graham or Charlie had any experience podcasting before, but it is a very finely produced podcast. Like the artwork is gorgeous, It's very thoroughly researched. There are very pleasant voices to listen to. It's nicely edited and put together. Like they clearly put a lot of work into their show notes. I'll admit I had no clue of the Nike Plus iPod Sport Kit existed.
Oh, really?
You know, even as an Apple history aficionado who's like paying attention to things around that time, but like, yeah, I had no clue that product existed, and you know, they tell the whole story of this weird thing, you know, beginning to end.
You haven't been
talking about
reading
how,
Today in Apple history religiously enough.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it feels like they covered 3 different topics that pretty much lined up with our Today in Apple history posts that were published around that same time.
What a coincidence!
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like they work here or something.
Yeah, you know, I saw the lead graphic that Graham provided us with, you know, and yeah, it's great. He always does great images. I mean, he's a designer, and he is also very meticulous. You know, he's a good journalist and a good, you know, how-to writer, and also super nice guy and fitness buff. My God, I he challenged me to some Apple Watch fitness things a while back, and we. You'll never guess who won, but I still get like daily messages on my Apple Watch. Graham just finished a workout, 5K outdoor run. It's like, oh my God. I read this stuff and I'm like, it should be motivational, but it makes me just go, oh God, what's the point? Graham just finished another 1.5 hour weight training workout. Jeez, okay, Graham, slow down, buddy. You're already ripped. I guess that's how you stay ripped.
Mm-hmm. Like this Nike thing, it was like a Nike product that required you to buy a special shoe that had a hole in it, and then you had like a dongle thing that you put in there, and like another thing that you plugged into the 30-pin iPod connector on your iPod, where you had an iPod Nano or something else, and it was basically doing what the Apple Watch does now. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Fascinating. So I got to say, I've worked with Charlie many times, conversed with him many times in Slack, but I've never actually heard his voice.
You know, he also has a very soft English accent, just like Graham.
Well, I'm definitely going to check this one out. So, what's it called? It's called
Apple.
Just tell people again. Apple Core is the name of this podcast. It's available, wherever you want to listen to a podcast.
Let's round it out with a quick how-to or a pro tip. This is a setting that I discovered a while ago, and I immediately changed it. I think some of our listeners will be interested too. There's a hidden setting in iOS 17 that speeds up haptic touch. You know, the gesture when you tap and hold the preview links or bring up option menus on your iPhone. If you use haptic touch all the time, like it really feels like you're supercharging your iPhone when you do it. And conversely, it makes the opposite, make everybody else's iPhone feel slow. So I was just like watching somebody else, use their iPhone, like one of my friends the other day, and like, I saw them like tap and hold on a link on a Safari, and I was like, wow, their phone's like running like molasses. So you go to the settings app, and then you go to accessibility, touch, and then there'll be haptic touch. And then you'll find 3 options: fast, default, and slow. If you set the haptic touch to fast, it'll react to the gesture really, really quick. So, it'll make your phone feel fluid and instantaneous. Again, that is in settings, accessibility, touch, haptic touch. This setting panel has like a little picture of a flower that you can like touch and hold on it as like a little test.
That's a cool little test feature,
So, if you're not familiar, in like Safari, you can long press on a link to get a preview of the page. In Messages, you can long press on a conversation to see a preview of the conversation. And here's another tip inside the tip. If you do that, then it doesn't send a read receipt until you actually open the message. So that's a good way to get a preview of the full message without sending a read receipt. On your iPhone's home screen, app icons often have a few shortcuts in the context menu when you long press on an icon. Long pressing on things is a pretty universal gesture, and this little setting makes it a lot faster.
It's amazing how useful that is, and how easy it is to forget that it even that it's even there, right?
I can see. Are you changing it right now?
Well, what I'm doing is going around and methodically touching. Long. Yeah, I did switch it at your behest. But like, for instance, the camera icon, I didn't even realize that was there. All the different things. As many times as I've used the camera, I almost always trigger it from the stupid, lock screen. But man, the touch screen, like instantly, it gives you the option to selfie, video, portrait, or portrait selfie. I didn't know that with the haptic touch. That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome, I gotta say. And it is super snappy. I mean, your article talked about some people who complain about it being too fast or whatever, so you can slow it down if you're really bothered by it. Why would you ever? It doesn't. It's not like it's like so fast it's going to rip your head off or something. But why wait that extra fraction of a second? You just save people fractions of a second every time they use that.
I am proving the efficiency of humanity, and that is the public good that I offer through the medium of my how-to articles. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. That is all the CultCast we have for you this week, but the party continues in the halls of the Cult Club. Show your support for the show with just $5 a month by going to cultof9to5macrumors.com. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank you all for listening and watching. Hopefully you're able to watch this non-live version of the show on YouTube. Fingers crossed that works out. I guess you already know since you live in the future. All three of us will be back next week when we will see you guys next time.
I miss the music.
Yeah, it's weird doing it without the music.
I'll give you some Those Darn Accordions or Electric Boogie Drugs songs to play on there. A little polka, that'll drive people away.
Yeah, little Weird Al Yankovic.
If you have music on there that is licensed music, will it ding you?
Apple pretty much curates podcasts that are hosted on the open web, but there's no copyright mechanism.
Well, I guess you use any damn song you want.
I thought about asking the guy who wrote the music that I put in my videos to commission a few more songs for some variety.
I mean, you could use anything from my bands. Like, nobody's going to care.
That's true. Do you have original songs, or do you just do covers?
Yeah, tons. There's tons of original tracks on those things. I'm trying to think what would be good. Man, I don't know.
I've never dived into that before.